Shitty excuse. I won't listen. I am not a Dodger. I am not a Dodger. I will be at MV2L land. I will be at the next golf TI. Stamp it, pin it. If I'm not, you can ban me from this Discord. I put it on everything. Woo!
Rhino, I can tell you got some things you want to say. So first things first. Do you think it was an 82-0 witch hunt? Do you think the village had the pitchforks and the torches out?
It makes my take a little crazy, right? I had to check myself a couple times. I didn't know what was going on, right?
I don't think that's true.
No, that's a bad take. That's a bad take.
No, you will not.
Blunt is better than him. Blunt is better than him.
Wait.
Blunt is...
We gotta correct some misinformation first.
Alright everybody, welcome back to Mine for the Game podcast. This is episode 6, I believe. Return of the Jedi, and I'm here as always with Chev, IPA, and a fourth podcast host who is on my shit list and will not be mentioned by name at this time. We're out here. It is September 16th, 2024. Team Liquid are international champions. A couple of us just got back from a fun weekend with a lot of 82L folks. And we're here to break down a couple of great topics on Mine for the Game podcast today, guys. So let's do some brief introductions. We're going to start off just talking about the tournament that I'm sure we were all just watching, TI. A lot of 2-0s at the TI. There's a lot of aura meta. A lot of range carries, a lot of tanky off lanes. Let's start with you, IPA, because your weekend was a bit more of an enigma to me. What did you do to watch TI? Did you gather with any friends or family? Were you tuned in to all the matches over the weekend? And how did you overall like the tournament?
Yeah, I did what I could, just walked it on my own. Spent some time just following the streams, watching replays, watching highlights. But no, I've never done a group watch of TI. I did one for like a CSGO major one time when it was here in Ohio, actually.
Oh, fun.
But I've never done it for TI. And there's a little bit of FOMO when you see all the messaging about Golf TI. You feel like maybe you're missing out a little bit. But no, I enjoyed the games. I actually think this TI doesn't get enough credit for how dynamic the meta was within the tournament itself. So I hope we get to talk a little more about that, the Dota side of it.
Yes, we will get into the meta of TI shortly. Rhino, let's face the music, shall we? You ditched out on Golf TI.
Alright, guys.
You baited everybody and then abandoned us.
Alright, guys.
I'm going to give you the floor to defend yourself.
Listen, you can go back like 3 years in my catalogs. I've always been a golf enjoyer. You know, this is my safe space where I come to relax with the fellas and the girlies. You know what I mean? I was invited to said event. I did say I would attend. I even filled out a sheet. I did plan on attending. And then the week, transgressed. I stayed up for the Friday night of that TI. And realized I couldn't drive before or after that. So I was like, okay, I fucked. Then I was like, I could go on Saturday. And I just slept, Shitty excuse. I won't listen. I am not a Dodger. I will be at MV2L land. I will be at the next golf TI. Stamp it, pin it. If I'm not, you can ban me from this Discord. I put it on everything. I will be at the next golf TI. Rhino will be in attendance. I put it on everything. I'm so sorry, but I love everyone in golf, man. These people are the best. If you're new to the league, because I know a lot of people are joining the league and things of that nature. Just hit up some golf associates, play some games. They're always chilling, and So, shout out golf, and hopefully that answers the question.
Playing games with golf.
Deep State. we'll decide your fate. Chev, please continue.
First, playing games in the golf Discord is how you test your mental fortitude. So maybe
True.
only do that if you have the if you have the mind for it.
If you think
Um,
you can play Dota while several people are dueling in an anime fighting game and 3 other pubs are happening at the same time, then this
come to
might be the
golf.
place for you. Indeed.
Yeah, shameless plug. Rhino, something in there will be made into a Discord soundboard in the golf server. Please come check it out soon. Yeah, what's up? I had a great time. I did attend Golf TI. It was a fantastic event put on by Bernie Sanders, Mudkip, and whoever else helped to organize that. Big shout outs to them. I got to meet some really fantastic people in person that I have never met before. People like Gambit and Licky the Cow. So that was really awesome. Hung out with Jamie again and Tree, people that I've met before at ND2L or previous golf events. So really fun time. We didn't really get to watch. I got there after TI ended on Saturday, and I was only there for one day. So I didn't watch any golf TI, or I didn't watch any TI at golf TI, which I think most people generally like. No one's really super locked in. I think if you're trying to like really lock into the games, I feel like maybe don't go because like people are watching it, but it's kind of like everyone's partying and being animals at the same time. So I watched the games mostly actually on the car ride back home when my girlfriend was kind enough to drive, and they were great. I mean, I actually really enjoyed this TI2 IPA. I thought that the meta wasn't. It was like kind of boring in a sense of everyone's trying to cheese out the game, but it wasn't. It was still like exciting to see some drafts and see like how teams answered certain things, and I'm like, I know we'll get into it in a minute, but like the lone druid popping up and all this weird stuff that like didn't really develop throughout until the end of the tournament. So it was cool. Yeah. Overall, I'd say this TI was like one of the better ones that I've watched.
All right.
Mine for the game podcast. I just need to offer an official statement from corporate headquarters. Mine for the game podcast apologizes for Connor's behavior on Saturday of Golf TI. I got a bit too messed up and was acting a fool, as they say. And sorry to Chev's girlfriend. I think I told you we were died, and that is
oh
my
God,
bad,
bro. I have to cut this shit from the podcast now. She asked me, she's like, "What is mean?" Bro,
Means exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah, that was. She also
But
told me
anyways.
that she said that the people that she felt because we brought our dog too. She's like, the people that I feel most comfortable leaving Puck with to watch him and walk him around this party right now are Licky and Tree, who are also some of the younger people there.
Agree
So,
with that. And you know what? Never mind. I won't go there. But it was great to
go
meet
there.
Chev's girlfriend and his beautiful dog. Thank you for bringing them. And once again, official apology from mine for the game headquarters. Rhino,
Yeah.
what were you thinking to say, my friend?
I hated this TI, and maybe this is I've been watching TIs since fucking I can't remember, like starting TI3, like TI4 on it, like TI6 was a fucking incredible, TI8 incredible, TI10 insane, like oh like TI like these are fucking insane TIs with insane team fights with buybacks with like the game on like Dota, in my opinion, is so insane because the game's on like 7 different levels. And what I saw on TI, I conceptualized as maybe like a 2 to 3 levels of Dota, right? Pick Lone Druid, unkillable, can't die, build 40 aura items, win game, yada, yada, yada. And it was just repeat, repeat, repeat. And it felt like games were over after like 10 to 11 minutes, right? How many comebacks did we see this TI? We didn't see many because there were a lot of 2-0s, right? I truly saw one true comeback, which was the I think it was upper bracket. It was either Talon or Aurora, either one of those guys, maybe XG, and it was like a true comeback, and they still lost, but it was almost a comeback.
I think
I
game
just-
one of grand finals, Liquid was down early, but it happened very quickly. Like some very quick moves happened, and then all of a sudden they were in the driver's seat. But it looked like they were on the path to losing that first game of grand finals to
yeah,
Gaiman.
yeah. I would just say like compared to like the bigger like to other TIs, this one didn't just sit with me. The meta was very fluid. I liked how the meta progressed across the international, the road international. I also have another hot take that I think the road international is absolute dog shit, needs to be removed.
Oh yeah, that shit sucks.
Uh,
I agree.
yeah, that is just it. Literally ruined TI. Like the hype of TI is literally dead because of that. I don't even know what it does, to be honest. Why are we only playing 8 matches on the final weekend? That doesn't even make sense. And I would never buy tickets for that. 8 matches to see 8 matches live. I'm not buying tickets. Sorry, 8 matches as in BO3s, like 8 BO3s, or like 1 BO5.
No, there's a bit more. There's what? Let's see, 6 upper.
I'm talking about the final weekend.
Right. There were 4 Friday, so there were 9 BO3s and then the best of 5 finals.
That's 5.
So 10 matches.
10 matches. 10 matches. I think it was probably going to be way better. Now I could go back on my take if those matches were actual BO3s, but we really got just all BO2s, and then a BO3 to end it. You know what I mean? Like no game went to the final. Damn, I think that's like pretty horrible. And then Western Europe just sort of ran over the tournament as well. So I don't know how you guys feel about that for the health of the game, but
Yeah. I think that first of all, I think players like 33 Neta, I think he is like really bad for Dota because he does this thing where he just like figures out ways to make the game super cheesy, and then just like he almost like tries to break the game and do this like game breaking timing or game breaking like way to team fight or something with like Doom or whatever aura play like hero he's playing, and then it just makes the game so, and people just copy it because it's like obviously the optimal way to play, and it makes the game so boring and stale. And also the map changes, I think that people are getting a little bit annoyed with the new map changes because it's figured out now, and it's just like if you don't ever have to split up really. Like split pushing is completely dead because if you ever split up on the map and the enemy team kills you, that's like kind of the only way back into the game for comeback mechanics. And that's not really a good comeback mechanic because it really just requires the enemy team to fuck up. And if the enemy team says we're not going to fuck up right now, there's just so many camps around that you can just stick together as 5 and farm and like get all these auras and group up early. And the game really is just decided like kind of at the 10 to 15 minute mark, and whatever team's ahead at that point can kind of just close it out. So that does make it super boring. And obviously at our level, we can still make mistakes, but it doesn't really feel like there's really agency on the team that is behind. So I will say that from like a viewer standpoint is really boring to watch.
Fair enough. IPA, you seem to have some thoughts on this current meta. I'll start with a question. Are you sad to not have core on your team when support Naga Siren is arguably the most broken hero in the game? And what were your overall thoughts of this current patch? As we should
Yeah,
be getting some new Dota content pretty soon, which is also quite exciting.
I'm already pretty angry that we didn't consider picking Naga Siren in the playoffs at the end of the season last season because it was just as good pretty much, and
Yeah,
we
pretty
just
much.
didn't talk about it. It just didn't come up, and I would have picked it for him if he'd have asked. And we were just focused on other heroes at the time. I'm always sad not to play with Core. One of my favorite people to play with. Unfortunately, there's only 5 slots on the team, so, and he takes a break every season, so I'm happy to give him the break that he needs. But yeah, from a TI standpoint, I think we really struggle with in pro scene Dota as observers not being enough action. I know that's like one of the things I've experienced is like there's a lot of dead time pretty much, and I'll give the casters like a lot of credit for being able to fill that dead air when people are just farming in the umpteen different corners of this huge map. And it's an interesting difference to our level of play and why more people should watch 82L. Make sure you guys follow the YouTube shorts and Twitch streams. Because I think the level of action is a lot higher because of what Chev said is the amount of mistakes. I think there are very few people that play in amateur leagues that have an understanding of where the enemy is in fog. And I think pros, there's almost like an expectation, whether it be scrimming each other so many times or just the fact that this is their day job, they just understand where people are playing in fog, even if they don't have the words to tell them so. and I think that allows them to dodge a lot of these ganks in a way that you don't see at our level. And so I do wish it was a little easier to make action, but I have really enjoyed the way that the portals have changed the laning phase, and I think this TI was, said the map is kind of figured out. But I think in particular, if you watch the way that carries rotate through the portal, is very different than what we saw in previous tournaments on this map. I think it's really changed the way that these active carries are played. And I personally found that really enjoying to see the way that the first 15 minutes played out on this particular meta.
Very true. I think a lot of these ranged carries like Wind Ranger, Luna, they have points in these nukes early on. They have range, so they come through that portal. Especially if they bring their buddy, the ganking threat is real. I think that might have played a role, and maybe, honestly, even pros maybe take a bit of time to pick up on things that are pretty strong. These gates have been around for a while, but like you said, haven't really seen carries ganking through them at the rate that we did during TI. I think that was pretty cool to see. I'm gonna be trying to get Bernie to come through the gank with come through the gate with me this season a bit, but he might be scared to miss out on creep, so we might have some learning curve there as we try to adopt these new techniques. I'm gonna turn a quick question over to you guys as we wrap up our meta discussion here. Valve teased some new content coming, and there's always a patch after TI. Obviously, it could be a couple weeks away or whenever, but eventually we'll flip the calendar over to 7.38 or maybe even like a D patch. What is one thing you actually like about this current patch? We've heard a lot about how the aura meta is kind of stale, some cheesing happening, etc., etc. But give me one thing you actually are liking on this current patch, and one thing you want changed. I'm gonna go first. I do like the support hero pool at the moment. I've been having a lot of fun learning some new heroes that have popped up, namely Naga, Tinker, and this new version of Omni Knight. I've been enjoying kind of trying to add those to my pool, and a lot of my old favorites are popular on the pause 4 like Snap and Mirana at the moment, so been having fun with that. One thing I'd like changed, I would like this bracer buff reverted. I think Dota is very snooze when people are just too tanky to kill, and bracer meta is a bit snooze for me. I think they need to revert the health buff on that one. Let's turn it over to Chev. Give me
Sure.
one change you want to see.
I really like the facets and the fact that they're trying to give people multiple options to play heroes. Like I like that heroes are being flexed more than they were. Like Naga Siren is a support now, which is uncommon for it. So I like when heroes can do like different paths, like take different paths to do different builds and do different things in the game. But I dislike how there's an optimal way to do all of it, and then everybody only follows that optimal way. So like it kind of just defeats the creativity that could be. Because if you do it, you're just doing a suboptimal thing, and then you're probably playing worse because of it, which just sucks. So I know it's a really hard thing to balance in the game, but I hope they figure out how to do that. And I also really hate Roche. I hate where Roche is right now. I think that's one of the things that are like single-handedly killing the entire game is that Roche is not contestable. So there's just like very systematic ways to play.
I like that take about Roche. That's interesting. I'm
No,
curious.
disagree.
How?
It does feel really
How do you
hard.
disagree? It's impossible to contest Roche.
I think it's hard to contest Roche. It's harder to contest Roche when you're on the opposing team's side, right? When they have the outposts for buybacks. But like Roche is already in a corner on low ground around high ground. Like how do you make it any harder? Like if people are actually in the Roche pit, you have a huge advantage if you catch them in there.
But they're gonna have one support sitting outside breaking smokes. They're gonna have some like treant sitting in the trees or something, ready to like pop your smokes or like scout. and they're gonna have wards set up, so you can't ever. It's like going up an enemy high ground when you don't have any vision. It's a recipe for disaster. Like that's why like you don't contest Roche now. You just push out the other lanes and let them have Roche because it's too
Like,
risky.
you're just saying like it's hard because the other team is well prepared. Like,
Yeah, but
describe me a
it's
scenario where being well prepared, Roche isn't hard to contest.
in old Roche when it was just sitting in the middle. There was so many more Roche fights. People like don't fight Roche now. It's like there like that was one of the most hype things that would happen was like echo slams in the pit, Roche steals like coming at it from any angle. But now you can't do that because if you try to contest it, the enemy team's just going to have it's like the way it exists on the map around like the portals and like where you can have wards down, you can just protect it because it's not approachable from every single angle. It's only approachable from like one or two.
All right. I do think it's also harder to run though. This is kind of a double-edged sword. I think it's easier to contest those than you think, and I think this game is full of too many pussies who want to split push and not play the game. Shiv.
Amen. Amen. That's
Okay.
+5 to IPA.
Okay.
If this was around the horn, I would be dinging you up for that
All right. Thanks, Tony.
one. Same question to you, IPA. What are you liking on this current meta? We've got
Yeah.
new facets, we've got the innates. What are you digging, and what do you want to see in 7.38?
I think in the same way that the map has been figured out, and I'll give Show some credit. I think he is correct about that. I think people have found the best ways to play around the larger map. I think the facets and innates are not figured out at all, and I think TI like shined the light on that really hard when the most broken hero just like pops up randomly on the final day, pretty much, or the second to last day. But I think the other thing is like, I hear people complaining like, oh, like there's no comebacks and like ours are too strong. Well, the whole Dota community was complaining that it was too hard to end games and go high ground before, and like every game was just like dragging out. Well, guess what? That's not a problem anymore because you complained about it. So then they changed Dota so that you could actually end the game early. But the problem is when you do that, you reduce the amount of comebacks because mathematically, the easier it is to end the game, the less likely it is to have a comeback. So this is like, as in my job, I deal with this all the time. Like everyone just wants to opposing forces pretty much to just coincide, and they want you to just magically make it work. And I think the problem is like people need to kind of decide: do they want the 30-minute game, or do they want the higher potential for an hour-long slog where you don't really know what's going to happen each time?
I don't know.
I will happily take anything that gets rid of the high ground meta that we saw before. That was one of my least favorite iterations of Dota.
The thing is, it was like they didn't fix it in the right way though, because like it's still the same
Here we
exact game. No, it's still the same exact game, but now it's just easier to break high ground. But there's still were no comeback mechanics previously. Like when teams were behind, all they could do is sit high ground and wait and pray because it was like
Well,
like I think the team that was winning
there
still won.
there are mechanics. You get a lot of XP for killing people who are ahead of you.
Yeah, but no.
That is just
The
coming-
problem is that
Streak
people
gold they
don't.
changed.
The problem is people don't split up anymore. Like there's no reason ever to split up because there's so many camps in an area that it's not like if you're sitting around one area of the map, everyone on your team could farm it because there's like 1,800 camps. So it's like I think that's the big problem. Is like they need to make it so that teams want to split up more, so that
Didn't
you
you
can
just
find the
say
kills.
you can't contest Roche because the answer to it is just splitting up and pushing separate lanes?
Yeah, but you can only do that when you know the enemy team's roshing. Like basically, the answer to rosh right now, I think, is that as soon as you know they're roshing, you push out the opposite two lanes and concede rosh. But you only do that for like 2 seconds. Outside of that, if the enemy team's not trying to take an objective like Roshan, they're never going to be split up because why would they split up when they're ahead? The only way they can lose is if they split up and then get caught out. That's like the only comeback mechanic in Dota right now. So to get that, you need to force people. They need to find ways to make it so that people, like teams, feel anxious when they're 5-manned. I think that's like that's my take on what the problem is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm like 5K shit. So who knows? But that's what I see.
I do think they need to make like neutral camps, like good neutral camps, have some scarcity again. Like that would be the biggest change that I would like to see.
Yeah.
Is back in the day, like contesting ancients or even just sentry blocking an ancient camp was a big fucking deal because you lost a much larger percentage of your potential income by taking that out of the map. So I would like to see like camps be more scarce, um, and maybe some like sneakier ways to get there. Because I think while the Watchers are a nice addition for the ratio of wards to total surface area on the map, I think the combination of Watchers plus warding plus lane creeps pushing equals like it's really hard without a smoke to make a deep play to gank someone in many of these like secluded camps.
I agree
Very
with that. Yeah.
true. It seems like economy on at least during TI was very straightforward. We saw a lot of stacking. A lot of stacking was happening, especially on the triangle area. And teams just go over there, get your Sand Kings or your, Mjolnir carries, get them over there, start taking some stacks, get big. I would like to see economy maybe be a little bit scarcer. I think that's a neat idea. Rhino, you were quite critical of the TI patch, but I'm gonna make you say something positive. So give me something you're liking in the current world of Dota 2, and then give me your one big thing you'd like to point out that you think needs to be changed.
I think Brood's playable. I think
Nice.
that's big for the game. I think
Good hero, honestly.
like the hero's good. I think when Brood's the first hero ban, I think she's in a great spot. So let's see here. Good things about Dota. I mean, Chef's spot on. Like this shit needs an update. Realistically, the map's completely figured out. I think offlane feels good right now though. For a while, it felt pretty bad. But I would love to see them switch this shit up. Let's go back to like a fucking uh, tri lane. Like a 1-1-3 lane comp. Like let's go back to those days. Like 55-minute fucking slug fights. Like I love that about Dota. That was like late game fights where everyone has items and it's just like, all right, you just got to take the fight better. Like that was, in my opinion, the best iteration of Dota. The iteration of Dota we are in now feels like League, where the team that's ahead at 15 minutes, 20 minutes is probably going to win the game more than likely, right? But the old Dota wasn't really like that. Old Dota, like the days of Ana, like we saw some insane shit. So yeah, I think overall the game's not in like the greatest spot. I don't really like the meta, to be honest. Like Lone Druid is a first pick. Like what the fuck's happening? So yeah, but I'm not that mad at it. My heroes are really good, so I like that part of it. But I personally am against Chev in the fact that I think the game's in a bad spot when there's like 3 or 4 OP heroes. Like I think that's like boring as fuck. I think the game's in a really good spot when everything's OP, and you just need to know like what situation it's OP in. So that's my take.
I think it was a bit sad to see, and this is a product of having less games total because of, changes in format to the event. But I think it's sad to see that this TI is the first one in a while with so many unpicked heroes. I think there were like 25 unpicked, and in some past TIs that number was a lot lower. I think in most past TIs it's a lot lower. So that kind of bums me out. I was a bit surprised to see like no Death Prophet, no Tide Hunter. I'm surprised no Warlock. I think he can buy a lot of the meta items that supports do and be a good team fighting presence, but maybe his lane is just not good enough, or maybe he's just a bit outshined by some of the more OP healing supports like your Omnis, Tinkers, etc. So, bit surprised by those, but love the thoughts. I'm hoping we get a new patch soon, and usually it seems like big patches coincide pretty closely with 82L. We've seen a lot of influential patches, sort of guiding the path in some key 82L moments, either at the beginning of a season or right before playoffs or even right before finals in the past. So I'm
Oh,
hoping we get like
new hero. That's the good shit.
there will
That's
be a
good
new
shit.
hero. Last question, and anyone can answer this. Do you think Ringmaster will be in captain's mode soon? And You think
No,
that's gonna have a big impact on
No,
82?
God,
No.
no, they're not releasing that shit soon.
dude,
You
that
think it's
hero
too
is
OP
like,
at the moment?
yeah, I think it's
That
like
hero's
two.
broken.
I think it's
I
three
think it's
nerfs,
very strong. Yes.
3 nerfs away, and then 1 small buff.
I think that hero's about a year away from seeing competitive Dota. I think we'll see that hero in next TI.
All right, I'll take the under. Just let me know how much money I can bet on a
I
year.
mean, I think he might be in it in the next patch with big nerfs. I definitely would think that's
Two
That'd
possible.
be
patches,
crazy.
dude. 2 patches.
But like big nerfs would have to happen.
You remember Monkey King? You remember Monkey King and Pango? They took like 6-7 months.
No, that's not true. Monkey King was broken on release.
No, he was broken on release. I'm saying to go to captain's mode.
Oh yes.
Like,
But
they take
even
6,
then,
7 months.
he was still very OP when he first got into the game.
Incredible. It
competitively.
was a great hero. Still is.
I
Yeah,
think they need to
no,
like
we
make the
saw a lot
ult
of
not
Monkey
do
King at
damage,
TI.
dude. Like,
That's a fun hero. Need to make what do what?
they need to make the ult on Ringmaster just like do 0 damage or something. I don't know. They need to like
Okay.
like fundamentally
Glad
change
you don't
it.
balance the game. I do think it should do maybe less damage. It does a lot of damage right now for how like not that hard it is to use.
If that did 0 damage, I think the hero would still be really strong.
I don't think so. It's a very significant nuke.
What do you guys think about the Wheel of Wonder being destroyable? Like takes 4 hits to kill.
That'd be cool. But
I like that.
yeah, I
You
guess
can only
that'd
hit
be
it from
interesting.
like range heroes that are outside the taunt range though, because melee heroes just get taunted. So
unless you're BKB.
that's
right?
what makes it interesting. Yeah, if you're BKB, you can kill it, so you can save a teammate. I think it'd be a cool change to help balance it.
All right,
I
you're
I think it would need
better.
to be like 6 hits or so, maybe.
Yeah, you're
do
way
think-
better at balancing than I am. Clearly,
I think he is one of those heroes though that he's just kind of useless when they get BKBs. I think he's surprisingly balanced. I'll be the odd person out saying that.
Saving act. Nerf
dude,
saving act. That
it's
shit
the
is
saving.
broken.
Like,
Saving act is a dumbass fucking ability.
Yeah, all right. The save is probably too good.
yeah,
It's cool.
Fox is absolute
Cooldown is really
bullshit.
long.
That
I also
is
think
so
I think
dumb.
his innate is a little too strong. I think that's I would maybe nerf the box in the innate.
Actually, yeah, I completely agree with that. So I've tested this hero out a few times as sport player, and the free items that don't get canceled by silence seems like the most bullshit aspect to me. Like you just get a free force staff or some free insanely strong heal. The illusion thing is kind of whatever. I mean, you can make a lot out of it if you're a good microer or used to like juking with it and stuff. But the other two are like so strong, and silence not affecting them seems either like an oversight or just too good to me. That you can be silenced and still use the whoopee cushion to get away. That seems a bit unfair.
yep.
So I would like to see some of those changes. I know some people on my team, they see this hero and they go absolutely feral. They really are very upset by its presence in the game. So I'm hoping it gets nerfed for my teammates' sanity. That's what I'm praying for.
I think I think for the escape act nerf, I would like escape act to be as 2 facets, where one version of escape act makes it targetable, and the other version gives it 100% magic resistance. Then you get to pick it based on the enemy lineups. Like if you want 100%
that'd be
magic
neat.
resist or physical damage untargetableness.
That'd be cool.
I would like
I
something
think
like
that
that
physical
for the
damage on
facet.
target in this is ass. You just get your ass blown up.
Maybe depends on the lineup.
I mean, I'm just distracted. That's what it is already.
I
Yeah,
would
you can't
like
target
it
them
to
in it.
do.
Can you do magic damage in it?
Like,
No, it has both. It has 80% magic resist,
Yeah.
and you can't target them. So it's
Oh.
basically it's Shadow Realm, but you're also immune to AOE magic, which is the
that's-
problem.
So insane.
Yeah, that thing's way too strong. And it has very little cast range to begin with, but nerf the cast range also. Like make it mostly you're only gonna use it on yourself.
You have to buy a Blink Dagger to cast it. Looks like just like a fucking snowball,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
No, I would like that better, honestly. All right, let's move on, guys. We had some controversy lately, and we're gonna address it on this program. Now, if you have eyes and access to the Conqueror League 82 all thread, first things first, I'm very sorry. And second thing is, there was basically a week-long witch hunt in 82 all last week over the presence of a player that was signed up on my co-host IPA's slow twitch muscle fibers team. The player in question is I believe, still in their position as community moderator, has done a lot of work on websites and the bots for scouting accounts and whatnot. And we're talking about TheSmallNut, basically one of the one of the more value divine players from the past, I don't know, 10 seasons. Been around playing most of the recent seasons up until 2 seasons ago, where they were one of the accounts that got caught in the vac ban wave in the middle of season 40. They were on Team Enso, uh, which actually went on to win champion that season without them, which is interesting. But they were on Team Enso, got a vac ban, have not been in 8012 since, and looking like it'll still be a while until they return to 82L. But
All right.
essentially, oh, hold on. The viewers, I just want to make sure we have the story straight here. SmallNut was signed up on IPA's team. 8012 community heard about this, saw it. It's public information on the website. And people started freaking out, essentially saying that because at one point or another, I believe about a couple years back, they were immortal. Obviously, they are a very good mid lane player, even adjusted to Divine 4. Some might argue value even at that badge. People start freaking out, as they are wont to do in 82L, getting upset, saying this should not be allowed. They didn't complete the 500 games of recalibration that are required. Initially on the account, it looked like they had about 300. And then upon some investigation, people essentially came to discover that the account was most likely purchased after being botted, and that also seemed to align with the reports of the account basically being in the shadow pool and having trouble getting games in the Dota matchmaker. Hence why they hadn't completed the 500 games, because the queue times were so long, couldn't find matches, yada yada yada. So, that's basically the gist of the situation. At first, I would say people were just freaking out that they had to play against a good player. Then it turned out to be some legitimate concerns with the account. So, before we get to you, Rhino, I want to turn it over to IPA. I want
Rhino
to get
foaming at the mouth right now.
I want to get your gut, thoughts. This was someone that you recruited for your squad. Obviously, didn't work out. They are not on the roster anymore. But like, as someone who was kind of was, I don't want to say targeted, but like impacted by the community outrage of what was going on the past week, like, do you have any initial thoughts on the way people were behaving, on the eventual decision to not allow them on your team? Like, as someone directly involved in this, just give me your perspective first before we get to the other members here on the podcast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think of all four of the people on the podcast, I have played with or around the small nut by far the least. I literally played 2 MDL games with him, standing in for Bungus's team the week before. I looked at his rank and I saw on the MD2L spreadsheet, because I was scouting the players we would play against, that he was Divine 4 MMR. And I thought, like, oh shit, like this fits perfectly. This guy was really nice. I thought he was good. He actually played 2 and 3 in the MT2L game. So I said, someone who potentially flexes core positions, like, yeah, this fits my bill. Like, this is perfect. So I just asked him if he would be interested, and of course he said, like, I'm currently banned, so that sounds fun, but I'm not allowed to play currently. And I said, well, let me reach out to the admins. I'll just kind of like state my case, let them know what my intentions are to have you play on my team. So I did exactly that. I made a ticket with the admin team, explained the situation, provided the Dota buff links to his current account and the original account. Obviously, as it seemed more realistic that he may be able to play on my team, I asked him for other Smurf accounts that he had that either were or weren't disclosed in Smurf Island, because he was an old player, so he had some of those. So I made sure to link all those so that they had all the information. Yeah, and I thought he was a good fit with all the information I had. It didn't seem like an unfair player. And I just like playing with nice people, and the fact that he was willing to flex and drafted for us in the MD2L game just seemed like he'd be a good fit to play with our team. That
Okay,
answer your questions?
I think that was great. Rhino, I can tell you got some things you want to say. So first
Let
first
him
things
loose, bro.
first. I'm gonna let you loose. Do you think before the news came out that the account was purchased, which came out about a couple days later after all the bat chesting occurred, do you think it
Yo,
was an 82-0 witch hunt? Do you think
listen.
the village had the pitchforks and the torches out for TheSmallNut? And
Listen.
then just give me your thoughts. Just give me your thoughts.
So, I'll never leak, but there were conversations in the Mind for the Game group chat. IPA drops this known, let's say, imposter. I fuck with Small Nut, but respectfully, you're an imposter to the Dota space now, right? I was like, don't ever leak that to the community. That should be a last second put on the website. I would like a player like that. I would never just put on the website.
Dude, an imposter?
Chev, this guy Chev, right? I never lie to you. I never lie to the audience, guys. This guy Chev sees it, instantly puts it in Nate's soul chat.
Yeah, obviously.
Small Nut to conk. Hold up. I'm like, this guy is not playing conk. That's the first thing I say. I say this guy's not fucking playing conk, right? And then everyone starts spamming. You get the people with the shit takes. You get the Bennies. You get the Odins. Right? All the shit takes start spewing in, right? The Fourth Worlds, right? In the shitstorm, right? Chev starts siding with them and saying Small Nut should be playing in the league. Then we have your podcast host, Rusty Shackleford, also saying this man should be in the league. Noted, he is not in Conqueror this season, right? It is me standing with these other guys, right? The guys I usually
Name them again?
With, right?
Wait, name the guys again that you were siding with?
It makes my take a little crazy, right? I had to check myself a couple times. I didn't know what was going on, right? So I am messaging with IPA in the background of all of this, and he's like he's done his due diligence, yada yada yada. He's done it through the admins. I'm like, okay, well, I trust IPA. IPA is a good guy, good moral compass, yada yada yada, right? And so I stop it. I go to sleep. I stop it. Right. I wake up with a DM from the one and only Wild Daddy. Right. He has these matches, and it says like 200 games in Russia, 300 games EU West. He had some like 50 games in Peru, maybe 20 games US East. Right. I'm like, wow.
That sounds like some exaggeration, but there were
Okay.
multiple.
No.
regions
It was
on
it was a lot. We can put the screenshot out. It was a lot, right?
There
It
were.
was
I mean,
bad.
obviously, the
bad.
account was purchased and it was botted in like China and C server, like in the middle of the night. That is 100%
Insane. So before I do anything, right? Before I make a ticket, before I do anything, I type again in Conqueror chat. I say Small Nut will not be playing in Conk, right? Chev, Rusty Shackleford, these guys are saying he should play, yada yada yada, right? I post the screenshot, right? It doesn't get a lot of hype, honestly. No, nothing really happens. Like I'm like, what the fuck's going on, right? Then I make a ticket.
You gotta
right?
spell it
Or
out
an
for these
app.
bozos sometimes. You can't just like post a thing and expect them to do the
I
math.
post a screenshot like in public.
You gotta spell it
And
out.
I'm like, what the fuck? Nothing happens. I throw the ticket in, right? Or I think I'm added to the ticket. Or whatnot.
No. That's not what happened. I made a ticket and I added like 15 people shit posting in a ticket because there's actually a I shouldn't say this, but there's a bot command that you can use in tickets /add, and you can add whoever you want to a ticket. I recently found out, so that was a shitpost ticket.
It was a shitpost ticket that turned into the actual case.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I continue to say SmallNut should not be anywhere near Conk. Listen, I was fine with him going to champ. If Rusty says he's a Conqueror player, then he's fine up in the champ leagues. You know what I mean? Again, I also think this brings up a greater point. People who play in the actual league or division they're in should have a greater say than the admins on certain decisions, right? The community stood tall and said this guy should be nowhere near the league, right? The whole community. It was actually insane. Like probably like
But
95%.
most people were saying that because of fear and not because of this.
No. I don't think that's true.
No, that's a bad take. That's a bad take.
No, you will
Blunt
not.
is better than him.
Alright.
Blunt is better than him. No one's saying Blunt is.
We got to
Come on.
correct some misinformation first. Shev's shitpost ticket is not any of the official tickets to decide whether or not SmallNut was going to be in the league. That is 100% wrong.
Was that screenshot
man,
in
just
the
let it
official
live.
ticket IPA? Was that screenshot in the official ticket?
Just let it live, bro.
I don't know.
Trust
I didn't
me.
read any of it. I just said get me out like 50
Yeah.
times.
Me too. And I think the other thing too is that, yeah, Rusty's right. Like, I think people are reading a little more into what they wanted to hear. I think there was a surprising amount of, I think, opposition on both sides. I think there were multiple people that said, I think this player would be appropriate for the league, irregardless of whether or not they should be allowed. I think there are like two very distinct issues on whether or not the player should be allowed in Conqueror. One of them is should they be allowed in 82L, one is should they be allowed in Conqueror. And I think the conversations have varying degrees of merit.
Okay.
The first one is no, not now. The second one is almost certainly, unless they calibrate a lot higher.
Let me jump in quick. First, when that happened, when I brought this up in Conqueror chat, first of all, I will at every opportunity to allow content to spread through the league. If that means bringing it up or shitposting, I will take that opportunity because that is fun to most people's standards. And why our league is more fun than MD2L, RD2L, or any of the snore, boring ass snooze leagues. So yeah, I saw him on the website. I posted it. But second, on SmallNut, just to clear his name a little bit, I think that a lot of people were really misinformed or just kind of confused by the chatter in Conqueror chat and all the tickets. And to be honest, I think the admin team did a pretty shit job at clearing it up. They kind of just kept it behind closed doors, which you can do, but when something becomes public knowledge and public discourse, I think that you kind of owe the community an announcement about it, and they haven't said anything, which is kind of shit, unless I'm wrong and I haven't seen it. But I truly think that they should have posted something in admin decisions or announcements or even Conqueror League. But they resolved it in a closed doors ticket, which is really shit communication and a big
This is facts.
fumble.
This is actual facts.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a fumble.
So
For sure.
I think I was arguing with Sub Wolfer that is, not Souvenir, in Conqueror chat, right? I was arguing with this guy in Conqueror chat about this decision. He was heavily defending it, right? Staking his name on it, right? I'm like, this guy does not belong here. Yada, right? I think now listen, I love Subwoofer, right? I think he's made some great decisions for the league, right? But communication in this sort of Subwoofer admin regime has been weak across the board, right? Especially on these big decisions, right? Even like an at Conqueror role would be massive. We all know what the decision is. We all know what's going into the season. Also, Conqueror chat, I typed in there, I was like, is SmallNut even playing this season? Or what was the SmallNut ruling, right? How am I, a regular 82 civilian, supposed to know about the news of the small nuts, the SmallNut thing, right? Like, I'm not IPA, I'm not an insider, right? I'm not Rusty Shackleford, right? I'm just a regular guy trying to get the news of what's happening in 82L, and I had no idea. Right, I had to ask Conqueror chat. And got
If you had come to Pittsburgh, you could have asked them to their face.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, you gotta go to Pittsburgh to find out the news. Wait. So
It's too late. They all left.
Let me just get in what I want to say about SmallNut quickly, about the whole kind of controversy in general. I think that SmallNut, I personally really wanted him to play. So that's my bias right there, is I wanted him to play. I like him a lot. I think he's like a cool person. I like laning against him, talking to him. I think he's a really good sport. and we're not like really good friends or anything, but we're friendly and like acquaintances. So I wanted him to play, but I do think that if he were to play, I think that he needed to be moved up probably to either champ or above, kind of in the same decision as Ratfat. Only because even if he had grinded out, let's say he did grind out the 500 games on an alt account that he made from scratch and played all 500 games of, that would mean that those 500 games were not at the starting point of where he was when his other account was VAC banned. So that 500 game play style or games would have been played, and he probably would have ranked up given the fact that some people like Fourth World Marshall hit Immortal and Yoshi is hitting Immortal. I'm pretty sure that TheSmallNut would have hit Immortal. So I could see him being relegated to play champ or above is the right decision. And I also, on the note of should he be allowed to play 82L at all, I think he's a person he just loves to play the game of Dota, for what I heard talking to him, heard playing with him. And it kind of does suck that he got back banned and he shouldn't have done that. And that was obviously stupid. But that to require somebody to play 500 games is one thing, but to do all 500 on an account that you can't find a game on, like he was queuing for over an hour on the account that he created by himself and he couldn't find a game. So that just basically means a permanent ban from 82L. And I think that there's situations when you have somebody who contributes positively to the league, to the website, is an active community member, and the only way that he can play the game that he loves is by playing in competitive matches and like off matchmaking. I think that we kind of, as a community, should just be like, hey, that's fine. You should get to play the game. Like we can make exceptions to these very rigid rules that the admins have. And I think that, but above all, there should have been better communication from the get-go, from the community moderators and from the admins specifically. So that's probably the last thing I'll say on it.
Great show.
I can get behind what you're saying, that until there's more data, even beyond 500, that you maybe just move them up just because there's an element of unknown. I will put on my historian cap just for a minute here. The ceiling of Conqueror now is Divine 4. If we are talking the historic rank of this player, they have been a Conqueror player pretty much their entire 82L career. They hit Immortal briefly. They are very good, but they hit Immortal and then deranked back down to like Divine 1. And they've been Divine pretty much the entire time that I can recall, having played against them in some of the same leagues, overall being aware of this person, since I think like season 31 or 32 is when I remember TheSmallNut coming to the league. So, if your argument is they don't belong in Conqueror because they haven't done their duty of filling out the 500 games, you think there should be more matchmaking data before they potentially play a lower league, I can get behind those points. However, if your argument is just they're too good, they should be adjusted up based on eye test or a brief rank up slightly higher than the ceiling of the league, which is now pretty high, I think a lot of the Conqueror regulars need to realize, like, it's Divine Force ceiling. There's going to be a lot of good people who can potentially participate, and you're going to have to deal with high Divines, people ranking up to Immortal, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
for clarity, that's not my argument. My argument is that he would have played more games on his other account and probably would have ranked up, and there just wasn't enough data, like you're saying.
right.
But
I think that's Rhino's argument initially, and others as well, though,
Yeah.
was he doesn't belong in the league.
That was actually,
he's really good.
Yeah, that argument sucks, but the other argument was Jamie's, I think, said it first, which was like he would have played more games. But yeah, the thing about, I mean, you can say that about so many people.
Adjusting to the peak on VAC ban people, I think, would be a reasonable compromise.
That was just my take. My take was never he's too good. That didn't come from my mouth. Trust me.
Just the people you sided with.
I mean, there's an implication there.
I'm siding with dogs. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm siding with animals, but I'm no.
Right, putting his reputation on the line.
Like, you know what I mean? That was right.
Yeah.
So fuck it. But
Stubborn-eared
also,
Bulbino
are the fucking wild dogs on Noah's Ark, apparently.
also
So-
one more thing. I think it's very telling when you ask a player. And I asked him. I said, "At TheSmallNut, are you a Conqueror player? Do you think you're a Conqueror player?" No response. Of course he doesn't think he's a Conqueror player, bro. Like he knows he's not supposed to be down here. Like if he could look me in the eye and be like, "Yeah, I'm a Conqueror player," I'll be down here, bro.
But he
Like-
could have been down here even in the most recent season that he played prior to getting back.
But I'm not talking about rank because we can't talk about rank about a VAC banned player that you say does most of his.
I know, but
games in
I'm saying
competitive
even
games.
pre-VAC ban season 40, they signed up. I believe they were Divine 3. They could have been here.
Wait, didn't we just get adjusted up to D4?
Even adjusting up, but I'm saying pre-VAC ban there wouldn't be any adjustment. Like they're just signing up to play like anybody else.
Okay, I hear you. Okay.
All right, I think
Well,
there's
anyways.
one big thing for me, which I think the discussion about the end outcome of admin decision and SmallNut ultimately not being able to play on my team and the way that it went down with the account. I don't begrudge either the TheSmallNut or the admins for the way it went down or the account info in particular. I mean, I think not knowing that the account had the purchased history kind of made me look like a dummy. But at the same time, I think basically what I did when I looked at the players, I went to strats, I sorted by ranked games, I looked at the last 100 games, and I saw that he had an 87% win rate and was playing all the top meta mids in his best position. And I said, this is a player who's trying their hardest to rank up as fast as possible. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I know you cannot say that about the majority of the league. And quite frankly, the idea that we are punishing people who are trying to skyrocket their rank like that, as opposed to the people who intentionally don't rank up, and then we complain that the people that are actually trying to rank up as hard as they can in ranked pubs are the ones who are too good for the leagues that they're placed in, I think is really bad. I think that particular dichotomy is just embarrassing for the people that are complaining about that.
I mean, 87% win rate. If you think about it, he had another 200 games to go. What's his rank gonna be after those 200 games?
I did the math actually before I asked if he wanted to play. His MMR would have been like 8K if you did an extrapolation of the existing win rate and number of games he would need.
Which would not
gonna
happen.
Keep winning like that.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
probably.
he was playing against Crusaders, bro. That was my point.
Yeah,
Right.
I think SmallNut, like, this is just like guessing, so this has literally no value to it. But he's probably like somewhere between 6K and like 5.8K, so somewhere in the base immortal range, which is
Somewhere. It's a 200 MMR range. That's very specific.
That is really specific. I would
Alright,
say he is a
6.3?
high
I don't know.
divine mid laner, probably, is a realistic thing to say.
Yeah, but I think generally the members of the league who are complaining about a player in this situation, I think is not the side I want to be on.
Make it
When
spicy.
someone is
Name some
clearly,
names.
we already named the names. The dogs of the league, isn't that what Rhino said?
Holy shit.
The shelter animals.
Wait a minute.
Devin's
Wow.
right here.
I love
Yeah,
that
I'm
from
right
my
here,
PA.
bro.
I love that from my PA.
Because here's what I'm saying is like, here's what I'll say is he shouldn't have done that. But I mean, when I sorted the ranked history, like there weren't very many ranked games that were botted or played on the account. I think when I went back and looked at it, it was basically just the placement matches and then a shit ton of unranked games so that you have enough hours to play ranked.
Oh, you know what? You want to call out? I'll call out.
I think Wild Daddy's obsession with smurfing and like busting people when he himself is a lot lower ranked than he used to be to play leagues with his wife is crazy and a bit of projection.
Damn.
I'm just gonna keep it 100. I think
I
there's some
mean-
projection going on there.
Yeah, I mean, what he found on the account is against the rules, and if you break the rules, I think there should be subsequent punishment, which is what the admins did. So I'm not gonna like fault someone for finding a reason. I think you can probably spend too much time looking too hard. Although once he said his strategy for looking, it really did only take me like 30 seconds. So, I mean, I kind of get it. But I also remember like I didn't play Dota for the longest time because my trophy level wasn't high enough to play ranked. So I just played these shitty unranked games when I was trying to come back like 6 years ago. And they were fucking garbage. Like, I didn't know how good I was. I know how good any of the opponents were. And I didn't buy the compendiums or whatever the fuck it takes to level up your trophy on your account. Luckily, like, they got rid of that. But that literally prevented me from enjoying the game. And quite frankly, buying an account where only unranked hours are put in to level up the account to play ranked, I don't even think that should be against the rules in 82L. I think that should be fine. That's probably my hot take, quite frankly, is that bot accounts for that purpose are should be okay.
Bot
Purchased accounts are okay. The issue is, well, if you've lost yours for non-vac related reasons. We already went through this with Cafe replacing Blunted on Team Ligma last season. Cafe is playing on a purchased account. They feel confident they have detailed the history of when it was purchased versus when the previous owner was playing on it, and he was allowed to replace Blunted.
Shout out Rhino's new player.
However, the original
players.
announcement when VAC ban happened was that you need to create an original account from scratch, and attempts to circumvent this will, not gain you entry into the league.
Yeah, that shit
Like I said,
they did was dumb.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that he was not allowed to play based on. I don't begrudge the admins and I don't begrudge what SmallNut did. I am saying I think the rule to play 500 games on a new account is bad, and I think it should be changed. And like, yeah, my perspective is coming from someone with a family and a job. This is what I said in my ticket to the admins. I was like, if I had to play 500 games to play 82L again, I would just fucking uninstall the game, because quite frankly, that's going to take me years, and the years that I'm doing it, I can't play competitive, so I just have to waste away in pubs with random people, and like I don't have that much time to do it. So
I agree, and
Yeah.
and I think they are trending. I mean, there are very few impacted players to begin with, but I know with Mango, who from what I can tell, did completely make a fresh account from scratch. He was going to be allowed to play, or I think is allowed to play, calibrated to his previous peak or his previous rank prior being VAC banned. I believe he is allowed to play 80-12, stand in, make his own team, whatever. And he only has about, from what I've seen, I think 300. So I think they realized that might have been a bit steep when it was made, and they're, being a bit more lenient with people coming back. Just got to go through the right steps, obviously.
I think this could have all been done much better by SmallNut and the admin team if SmallNut said, "Hey, I can't find games. I really want to play the game. Can I, like, is there a way that we can work together to get around this?" And then the admin team would announce that publicly so people don't freak out when they see
I agree.
players like that back in the league. There doesn't have to be this witch hunt. And yeah, just communication all around is key. Good lessons learned, and hopefully the league gets better because of it.
I'm
Alright,
going to
I'll-
say one last thing on this topic, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah.
I think 82L community has gone downhill lately in a couple of very specific ways, and I think it was highlighted in this recent incident. Even if, eventually maybe the right outcome was reached, we want people trying to come back to the league through the right channels, given if they were banned for, things that are considered cheating in Dota. And I think that's totally fine. But I think the obsession with who is sandbagged and who is not, pocket watching people's rank, being obsessed with, oh, this guy used to be immortal, now they're not, so on and so forth, is
Preach.
really negative. Really, 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 really negative for the 82L community. It's annoying, and honestly, it's just filled with cope. And I don't like it. I really think people will have a more fun time if you realize that part of 82L is finding valuable acquisitions of people who might be valuable at their badge. Perhaps they do play better than their badge. That's part of assembling a good team for the league. So, thank you for the claps. The other negative bit, I can't remember now. It'll come back to me. But it's more this obsession with adjustments sandbagging, pocket watching. I'm really annoyed by it, and I wish it would chill out a bit. And if I remember my other point, we'll come back to it. Anybody have any last things before we move on to a very, very, very brief Conqueror preview?
Yeah, we'll say, I think, responding to what you guys said about communication and how that could have been better. I mean, I think, admittedly, some of that has to kind of land on my shoulders. I'm not privy to the individual ticket between SmallNut and the admins, but obviously it was my initial ticket to the admins that got him approved, and then I added him on the website. I think I mentioned this to you guys. Rhino said at the beginning of the podcast, when I informed the pod group that he was on the website on my team, I wasn't intending on making it public yet. Just that it was going to be on there. Because I did ask the admins if they wanted to make an announcement or something prior to me taking any action. And so I think I might have kind of stolen that opportunity of communication from them, and it kind of spiraled from there.
Oh, it's Chef's fault, what you're saying. Okay, glad we clarified that. Um, alright, let's move on. There are 15 teams in Conqueror this season. That is 3 more than there were last season. Overall, it seems like league growth is up. There's more teams in Champ as well. I think we have 13 over in Champ. Warrior has... We got 9 over in Warrior. I think about the same or less than last year, or the same or maybe one more than last year. Let's just do some very, very brief thoughts. Let's start with Rhino. Rhino, your team came together. We have Team Only fans on the website now.
All right, it's only the family, and
Only the family is on the website. And from what I heard, you are playing Pause One again.
fuck no, that was a joke.
Oh, okay, that was me. That was memes. Okay, so why don't you just quickly run us through? We got Blunted. We got Blunt Man, fellow Blunt family member. And
Yeah.
who else?
So we got Blunt Man 1, Blunted 2, me 3, Cafe 4, and then 5 is Ravine.
Okay, some new blood in the league.
Of
Seems like.
course. Yeah, I had to come with new blood, man. It's a new season, probably the youngest team I've ever been on. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited. I think every game will be streamed. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna try to commit to this.
All right, I've never been disappointed from Rhino promises before. I'm looking forward to watching those streams weekly. IPA. We just got done talking about this whole incident, but you did manage to fill out your roster with a Divine 4 ceiling player. We talked last week. You also picked up Talus on the free agent market. Who's this 5th player now? And how do you feel about the roster that came together after all this tumultuous chaos that unfolded?
Yeah, it was a lot. I'm really excited to play this season. My 5th player, his current Dota name is Globetard, but I know him as Morn. And I actually played. He was on my competitive Dota 1 roster back before Blunted was born.
Ooh,
To
fun.
give some perspective, so him, Cloud, and I have all played organized Dota 1 together, somewhere around 20 years ago. And so we've been bugging him to try to play in leagues with us before, but his work schedule just hasn't really allowed it. So this season is an exception, so we're all going to go back to our throwback Warcraft 3 names for the season. So Cloud will be changing to Thrice. I will be expanding the IPA acronym to the full name,
Oh God.
and he'll be Morn, hopefully. So, and like I was always excited to play with Talus. He stood in for us in previous seasons. He's just the kind of personality that I look forward to playing with. So I think that'll be a really good fit. And the best part about it is, the youngest person on the team is now Fatality at 32. So for those of you in Conqueror that lose to this team,
Holy.
you should be super embarrassed because we have no fast twitch muscle fibers left, and some of us are pushing 40. So if you're in your 20s, you better not lose, or you should be very embarrassed. You heard what Blitz said. They're trying to replace all these mid-30 players. Trash.
Insane. All right. I'm gonna ask you guys. I'm
Whoa.
gonna ask you a question.
The fuck?
Oh, what, Chev?
You skipped
Didn't we
me.
discuss you last week?
No.
Okay, we got Team Krill Eater. A lot of 82L regulars on this team. We got Cartographer, Clarkles, Rhino's new #1 enemy, Lorenzo.
Guys, all right, hold up. Wait.
I love this.
Wait,
I love this.
yo.
I'm
I don't know
waiting.
this guy. I don't know this guy.
I
don't know
do.
this guy.
He was on my winter mini team.
I
He's a nice
called him
guy.
a goofy bitch for a bad take in a slow chat. And then everywhere else I see him, I'm like, okay, like he's like sort of good. I think he's gonna have a decent season, right? I think he's gonna have a slow start and build into it. But I don't know this guy. I don't have beef with this guy. Okay, carry on.
I'm just gonna say, Rhino,
All right.
I
No
hope
beef,
we
guys.
get you regular season just to see Clarkles pop off. I'm so hyped for it, man.
I'm a big.
Who you
Clarkles
playing week
enjoyer.
1?
I don't know, some
Zealous Gaming.
Yeah, some.
Oh, and
Alright.
we will have podcast on podcast action week 1. Slow
Also-
Twitch Muscle Fibers versus Team Only the Family.
frauds.
Only the frauds.
Only the frauds.
We will be coming up with
That's
more
right.
OTF acronyms as the season comes on the Mind for the Game podcast.
So Chev, in order to increase your probability of playing Rhino, you will need to get O2'd by Zealous Gaming this week.
That is a good point. Yeah, that's a
Oh.
good point.
Okay. Rounding out Chef's team, we have Lorenzo, Spyror, and Orion. R&B affiliate, always a risky move. The brain rod sometimes is too far set in for usefulness to be achieved, but perhaps Orion will be a good fit for your team. Please, floor is yours. Any thoughts? I know a lot of these people, personally for me, love playing with Clarkles and Lorenzo. Spyror is pretty cool. From my experiences playing a bit and talking with them as well.
Mhm.
Orion, we've had some politically oriented beef in the past, so I'll just leave it at that.
Let's leave it there. I say, I don't think that our team is rigged in any way. I think that we're probably like solid, like middle upper of the pack. Like,
Who's
up.
calling y'all rigged?
No. I'm just saying, I think that we're not rigged. Like, no one called us rigged. I just don't think that we are rigged. Like, there's a couple of teams that, like, usually in a division that are like the rigged teams. I don't think that we're one of them. I think that we're like solid upper middle class, but like I hope to make upper bracket, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were kind of lower. My team's gonna hate me for that. They always tell me I don't talk them up enough on the podcast. But yeah, I think like this season I just wanted to not captain, not draft, so that's gonna be all on Spyror. I just wanted to come to the division, get a solid team that we can try pretty hard with. We're called Team Krill Eater because we are the younger version or I guess the lower MMR version of Team Tidehunter from Heroic. Since Clarkles and I almost played on that team, or almost tried to play on that team this season, but we were sadly too shit to play in Heroic Division. So we're now Team Krill Eater, and Brody or Calypsis will be coaching us here and there. I'll also be streaming all of our games, so you'll hear him talking to us pregame and talking to us in the drafting phase. He'll probably give us some draft advice that we will or may not listen to, and then yeah, try our best. It's gonna be kind of a try hard season, but less of a like I don't care if I win or lose. Just want to try hard and be competitive.
Ellipsis, very smart guy. I wish you nothing but success. And I'll say the hopes of Team Krill Eater will inversely be dependent on the amount of Smirnoff ices that Lorenzo consumes throughout the course of the season. So good luck to you. I hope that number is low and your wins are high. That being said, a lot of teams in this division. I'm just going to put a gun to your guys' head right now. Do not include your own team, but who do you think looks like the strongest roster or strongest team outside of your own? We'll start with Chev. Right back
come
to
on,
you.
don't start with me. There's a lot of question marks, man. That's really hard. Like, I think it could be any of the three of our teams, but honestly, I think, man, that's Can I go later?
Sure. Rhino, what do you think? Give me a team.
Grin Scythe.
Returning grand finalist Grin Scythe. A very valid answer. Seems reasonable to me. Some newcomers on their roster. IPA, what about you?
I think it's got to be this team, the Crownfall Fishing Club, because they have Cheddar Bear.
All right, give a real take, bro. Give a real take. Come on,
What
come
the
on,
fuck?
man.
Cheddar Bear's the spring mini champion. I don't think that's an unreasonable take.
No, I think if I'm gonna pick, I actually really like Rhino's pick. But if I'm gonna pick a different team, I'm gonna pick Savage Spirits with the return of Benny.
Okay.
Interesting. Do you have an answer, Chev?
Yeah. This is not. I don't think there is a front runner, to be honest.
I
I'm
don't
gonna
think there
say
is either. I'm looking at all of these,
Yeah.
and I don't think anyone jumps out as like a clear favorite.
no. I think that there's no front runner, or I think it's going to depend on who ranks up throughout the season, who gets better. But my dark horse team that I want to pick is Duke's Angels. I think that I don't know how good this Killiua guy is, but I've heard he's insane. I've played a couple pubs with him, and he's been nuts. So Duke always makes a good team, and I will be rooting for them the entire season. I'll be very happy if they win. Love Duke.
Killua
Love
is
Mark.
very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I almost picked them for what it's
Okay.
worth.
I will always be preying on Milk Boxy's downfall. And I've played against this De La Hiba guy in many pubs, and their hero pool is cringe. So we are anti Juke's Angels, but I do love Juke. Big fan. All right, I think those are all some reasonable picks. I'm looking forward to following what should be a very exciting season. You know, I'll be looking down from above in my ivory tower in the slightly less shittier at Dota version of Champion League, and excited to see you guys play, and excited to see IPA and Rhino face off week 1. Does anybody have any Conquer hot takes before we basically wrap up the podcast here? I just want to open the floor up. Any kind of
Ooh.
exciting hot takes?
I got a hot take question because you've
Okay.
been you know such a good job
Sure.
hosting, Rusty. I'm gonna direct this to you first.
Okay.
How many teams do you think will disband before the end of the regular season in Conqueror, and who will be the first team to disband or leave?
Animal Enclosure will be the first one, if it happens, for sure. I will say 2. I think Animal Enclosure and one of the low-ranked teams will give up if they won like 0 or 1 games. I'm basing this solely on historical precedent of Malibu teams. That is all. I'll say 2 teams though.
All right, I hope it's one quickly so we can get rid of this bye week.
Yeah, I was gonna
That
say
would be
one for that
nice.
exact reason. Let's just will it into existence. Malibu team disband week 2 or 1. No bye
Unless
week.
one of these new players Rhinos brought in as a sub or near alt, I think his team will probably stick together. So I think
God,
team
I
only the
wish.
fans will be sticking together for now.
I wish.
You
So,
wish.
fun fact: Subbanir's Steam
Subbanir
name for a
movie.
while was Killiua, or whatever. I thought that was him for
That's
like
funny.
a hot
Interesting.
second.
Nah, I think that's a pro name or something. That name
Juke
is
would never
used a lot.
play with. Juke would. It's an anime guy.
Oh, okay.
Juke would never play with. So I don't.
That makes sense. That why IPA and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna learn any lessons from last season, though, the team to watch is the Merrill Howard Kalen fan club. Given the amount of disrespect that Grin Scythe as Warrior winners got last season, they're the Warrior champions coming up this time. So we'll have to see if they can repeat what Grin Scythe did.
Hey, Helmets
I
On also
agree
did the
with
same
you.
thing. Helmets On won Warrior. They came up. They did pretty well in Conquer, and then they won Conquer. So I think you got some good logic there.
I think it is a bit different when you move up with your full roster versus doing what Grin Scythe did, basically mixing and matching. But I will say I got my eyes on them. I think they'll have a tough time given the average of the league went up and they basically moved up with their same team. I think they'll have a tough time, but they seem like cool guys that have fun with it, and they defeated R&B, so they're good in my book. Rooting for the MH K fan club. Anyone else got any last minute thoughts before we wrap up the pod?
No, close this out. I gotta go.
I got to go.
All right, we're closing out the pod. Go Birds tonight, right, Rhino?
Go Birds.
Let's see those Birds get that dub.
Wait, which bird?
Eagles.
Okay. So the Falcon's
pray-
also a bird.
Pray for my QB,
True.
Tua Tagovailoa, guys. Please pray for him as he's recovering from a concussion. And week 1 of 82 will be kicking off in 3 short days here. So a lot of exciting matches. I'll be bringing some news down from Champ. We'll, of course, be talking about and watching the progress of Conquer League closely here. And thanks, everybody. If you've made it this far, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Please sub up. I will be pinging nonstop for subscribers. Thanks, everybody, and good night.
So tonight we're drinking the Paulaner Hefeweizen, the Munich wheat beer. It's gonna be really delicious. Actually, I've already had a couple sips.